It's nice, you start to get the repetition and it becomes second nature, and you condition your brain to know where to go, when to do it, and whatnot. So
the experience you guys have on defense, talk about from your perspective what you see in the guys up front that allows you and Nate to make plays.
They're fast, they're big, they go hard every play, and we got some. They're very disruptive. They know what the other team's running, and they get in there and they make our job easy. So, yeah, it helps. When we got guys getting double teamed and they can't get blockers off on us, and so it allows us to make plays.
How big are the takeaways you guys have been able to have in the first 2 games?
Really big. I don't know what the percentage is, but they always say that if you're plus in the turnover ratio, the higher your chances of winning the game are. So, that's always really helpful in getting the ball back to the offense and keeping them going. So,
a lot of quick passes last week. I think Truman will do some of the same. What's that like as a defender dealing with that?
With Emporia, they like to run. They had that quarterback draw, and me and Nate talked about it, and we were both sitting on it a little too much. And I know Truman's quarterback, he doesn't like to run as much, but I think he's a little bit better thrower. So I don't think we got to worry about that, and we can spread out the defense a little more and play those short game passes a little better.
Luke, Jim Henry from the Joplin Globe. Have you guys made a more conscientious effort of trying to knock the ball loose and get more turnovers this season?
Yeah, it's always a defensive goal of ours every year, and I think we just got some guys that like to fly around and like to bang heads, and I think that's really opened up the turnover margin for us.
Did you see who's in first place in the standings?
I didn't. I don't get a time to check those. Is it? Oh, okay. Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
As the defensive backfield, everybody was coming into the season was talking about how improved it was going to be, and so far through 2 games they have been. How much has that helped the rest of the defense?
It helps everybody. Those guys being able to cover guys better keeps the quarterback holding on the ball longer, and helps the D-line get to him better. And then, our D-line getting the pressure on them, that gives them the chance for the picks in the secondary, and them being around the receivers and knowing exactly what they're doing on most every play, is helping us out a lot.
Luke, Nick King from KODE TV. How much do you guys talk about not just the fact that you're 2-0, but the way that you won the games and the scoring margin?
We're just excited. Last year those 2 teams, got the better of us, and we're just excited to be 2-0 in the conference, and win's a win as far as we're concerned. And now this week we're just looking forward to the next game. So.
Hey Luke, I'm Greg Grizzlon. I'm a columnist for teamcom.net. I wanted to ask you, man, you guys obviously have started 2-0, and what are you guys doing to stay focused, and what do you think needs improvement as far as your defensive performance so far this season?
The staying focused, we just talk about, getting the win, and that, it's 2 games down and 1 to go. We're not looking, to the next week. We're going to stay focused on, the game of the week, and then, what was the second question?
What do you guys need to improve on defense as far as performance through the first 2 games?
I think that last week I don't think we necessarily came out flat, but I think that we were a little shell-shocked to begin with, and I think that we just need to come out with more confidence. And I think that we need to adjust a little quicker. I think we did all right on the adjustment as far as the game went, but just holding our ground.
Can you attribute that? Because I thought you guys too started a little tight. Can you attribute that to anything? Just the pressure of Champions Weekend and playing in front of some of those old guys, or just first home game of the season? What was going on there?
Yeah, a little bit of that. There's a little bit of distraction, but they ran some plays that we really hadn't gone over too much during the week, and kind of got us on our heels. And then everybody had their little faults. D-line, they weren't crashing down right at the begin with, and then linebackers we kind of misread some run plays, and then the defensive backs, they told us that they were wanting to play the run more than they were that pass on that tight end throwback. So after everybody got calmed down and thought about their jobs and got after their jobs, they did all right. So.
Look, what's it like to play here? Your family has a good tradition here. to be here and contribute to the program. What's that like, or is it a big conversation at the holiday dinner table?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I catch a little slack, you know, just because they're, oh, you know, you were bound to go there. But, yeah, it's awesome. I mean, this is a great crowd. You know, I think we had over 8,600 fans, and this place was electric Saturday night, and it was a lot of fun to play in front of them. And, you know, I hope next home game we get even more people, because it, you know, that definitely helps us and definitely helps the crowd and helps the game.
Luke, since mostly with GTV and Guerrilla Radio, Truman started the game against Fort Hays State with 12 pass plays out of their first 13 plays from scrimmage. They've already attempted more than twice as many pass plays as Pitt State and Emporia. Are we going to see a more aggressive Pitt State defense, knowing that they are not big on their run game?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think we're game planning for them to throw the ball a lot, and you know, obviously that's what they like to do. So, you know, I think that we will be more aggressive on the pass than the run, and you know, try to make them beat us on the run more than the pass.
Luke, Garrett Knapp from KSN. Did you make the trip 2 years ago to Kirksville?
Yes, I did.
What do you remember about that?
That we were not focused. You know, it's a weird environment up there, not having stands behind you, and different place to play at. But yeah, we were not focused, and you know, that was a downer of a year. And I think that a lot of the older guys, you know, their hearts weren't into that game. And Truman, you know, they had nothing to lose that year, and they came out and threw everything they had at us, and they got after us that year.
How do you make sure that you are focused this time around?
You know, it's a conference game, and starting out 2-0, you know, we got, you know, it's a good start. And Truman every year beats somebody they shouldn't, and you know, we don't want to be that team. So we're going to stay focused and, you know, keep going on this MIAA road.
Do you think it's easier to fall into a lapse on the road or at home?
I think it depends on the team. I think that it is easier to fall into laps on the road, especially, you know, being all the way up there in Kirksville and playing a 7 o'clock game. You know, I think we get up there tomorrow night, and we're going to be hanging around there all day Saturday. And, you know, that's going to be a big challenge for us, is keeping that focus, you know, being there, like I said, all day and then playing at 7 o'clock at night.
So if you're going to play a road game, you'd rather play in the early afternoon?
Yeah, that's just my preference. You know, I like to get up and let's get going and get after it. So I don't like to hang around and think about it all day long.